Welcome, my friends, to the Sage Acquaint Radio Hour, your home for free and critical thinking, and I'm your host, Mike Williams. Tonight, Michael Murphy returns to the show. Michael is an award-winning director and producer, a political activist, and president of the Coalition Against Geoengineering. As an independent reporter and community organizer, his work includes directing and co-producing the groundbreaking geoengineering documentaries, Why in the World Are They Spraying? And What in the World Are They Spraying? Each film has awakened millions to the environmental threats of the geoengineering programs. In tonight's discussion, Michael will fill us in on what is potentially the most difficult environmental test in history to conclusively prove that the ongoing aerosol spraying program is not simply contrails, but a very dangerous mix of chemicals which is disrupting and impacting our collective health and well-being and resulting in worldwide damage to the environment. Dr. J. Marvin Herndon, along with two volunteer environmentalists from the National Crime Scene Cleanup Association, are setting out to find conclusive evidence about the existence of chemtrails, with Michael documenting this incredible feat. The tests will be performed by paragliders at 30,000 feet, which is the same altitude commercial airlines fly at. The air samples from the spraying will be collected by the paragliders and later analyzed to assess the content of the aerosols. There will be several tests performed in order to gather as much data as possible. The result of the testing will set the stage for legal action in an effort to halt the UN climate change agenda of implementing carbon taxing, which is designed to monetize the very air that we breathe. Michael also discusses the upcoming December UN Climate Change Conference in Paris and how humanity is at a critical juncture in our struggle to remain free from global governance. And to kick our conversation off, I asked Michael to tell us about the paraglider experiment, and here is what he had to say.
Well, a very important test, and for years with this movement, we found contamination that match geoengineering ingredients exactly, and we focused on aluminum, barium, and strontium. We found this in rain tests from around the world, so we see these numbers in terms of milligrams per liter just increasing by the year everywhere around the world. And as you know, and as I'm sure that your audience is aware of, it's creating a lot of problems, not only in our ecosystems, but within human health. But the challenge that we have with rain tests, while those of us who are aware of geoengineering, we know what's happening, we've been matching it with the skies, they're not exact. And what that means in the court system, we have this issue of reasonable doubt. And there are other areas of contamination for aluminum and other things. So that's been a big challenge in terms of us moving forward in a legal capacity. What we have now is an aerosol collection project that we've started and initiated here in Los Angeles, and we're working both with airplanes and also with a team out in New York. And this team out in New York is going to be taking paragliders up into the aerosols. The paragliders are now doing a death-defying test here. What they're going to attempt to do is go up into the aerosols. They're going to attempt to climb up to 32,000 feet. The previous world record for a paraglider is 26,000 feet. And essentially, they're going up with a parachute and a small engine. They're going to be in hazmat suits and bring up the very small collection equipment that's needed. But it's a very risky project because there are 100-mile-an-hour winds, and it's very cold. It's up to negative 50 degrees below zero in those areas, maybe even colder. So it's a very, very risky project. There's about a 10 or 15% chance that they will not make it down, but they're going up for the purpose of getting accurate samples from aerosols. And what we plan on doing with that, of course, is bringing that in to the court system. It will give us 100% court admissible proof. We have Dr. Herndon, who's been involved with the movement. He's a world-renowned scientist. He's going to be overseeing this and writing a court admissible paper, which will be peer-reviewed as well. So we have our ducks in order, and we think that this is going to be an absolute breakthrough. What's nice about this, we don't 100% trust the system. For example, they could, in that region, when we go up, spray something inert. They could spray steam into those aerosols. But the nice thing about this is we have 1 year to do the project. We had to get FAA clearance on this. However, we have 1 year to do it. So if we see aerosols, heavy aerosols in the sky, now we can get up to them in about 8 to 10 minutes from the ground level. So the first couple of tests, we might not get the results that we think that we're going to get, but if we continually do this and expand the project, we'll definitely be able to prove that geoengineering is happening, and then move forward in a class action lawsuit, which there are a number of directions that we can go. And I'd like to get into that in a little more detail. What we're also doing, Mike, in Hawaii, what we see in terms of aerosol patterns are much different than what we typically see over the mainland. And Bruce Douglas of Maui Skywatch began studying satellites, and what he noticed were these what appeared to be aerosol explosions in the Pacific. And these aerosols appeared to start out from one source point and expand out into the ocean, creating large cloud covers. Now, he became very effective at looking at the satellites and was able to predict when aerosols would pass over us. So he would call me and he would say, Michael, 2 o'clock, we're going to see massive aerosols, the wispy type clouds that we typically see that the trails turn into around 2 o'clock. And sure enough, he was accurate 98, almost 99% of the time. So it became very clear that not only are we seeing aerosols dispersed from aircraft, but it also appears that they're sourcing a number of the aerosols, a lot of the aerosols that we see in the Pacific from ships, from boats, and those are going up into the atmosphere, developing weather systems, and doing a number of the other things that we believe are related to these programs. So the importance of this, right now our scientific community, our government officials, they have this plausible deniability. And they're saying what we're seeing in the sky is simply condensation trails. Well, we're going to be getting photographic evidence, and assuming that they're creating clouds from a ship, we're going to be photographing that and then going into that plume, taking a sample, and then we can have 100% proof that they are geoengineering not only the Pacific, but the weather in our area. And that's very important in terms of addressing this issue of climate change, because climate change is now being blamed on CO2 by many in the establishment. And what's interesting is geoengineering, which is, I believe, and many people believe, the largest contributor to our changing climate, it's not included in climate models. And because of that, the models are in no way accurate, and they're actually fraudulent by those who are aware of geoengineering programs. And the idea behind the lawsuit, of course, we can go many different directions, because there have been damages related to human health. There have been property damages, just a number of weather-related damages. So we could go a number of directions, but we have this France climate agreement. It's also called COP20. It's a international climate treaty, or climate agreement is actually what they're calling it. And what it will do, it will allow an unelected body, the IPCC, as well as in conjunction with the UN, to literally mandate laws and micromanage our lives, enforcing UN laws, again, by people who we did not elect. And it's going to change not only the very foundation of countries around the planet, but also the fundamental way in which we live. So we're looking at trillions of dollars potentially in transfers of monetary damages through carbon taxes and other schemes. But it's also a corporate takeover of our government. And what they're planning on doing is creating what many are calling a carbon dictatorship. And this is going to be a very oppressive government. And what they will do, they're not only going to mandate when we drive, what we drive, how we drive, but also what energies we use. And what that means, now that we have smart meters on the back of our homes, they're going to be monitoring what appliances we use. And in terms of this carbon dictatorship, real possibility, something that we're looking into, is a complete corporate takeover of our personal lives. And a good example of this might be the vacuum cleaner that we're using today. When this gets signed, and they're looking at a 5-year planned implementation, if you use the vacuum cleaner that you're using today, in the near future, you might get fined in your home, because these smart meters have the ability to monitor exactly what appliances you're using. So they're going to be forcing us to purchase what they are deeming, what this corporate government is deeming as green products or green energy. So we're looking at, again, complete control. And I just touched the surface on this in every aspect of our lives, including monitoring of the way we live in our home. And again, I really want to point out the importance of this, because everybody has a carbon footprint. Carbon is a building block of life, and we all use carbon, in most of our energy sources, if not all, are based on carbon. So it's measurable, and it's a very effective thing in terms of taxation. So they're blaming carbon on the changes that we're seeing in terms of our planet and in terms of our weather. However, we know, this is not debatable, geoengineering programs are designed to change our planet's temperature, and they're also designed to manipulate our weather. And because of that, we know for a fact that they're responsible for most of the changes that we're seeing. There are a lot of different factors that come into climate science and the changes that we've seen. But because, again, they're not included in these climate models, you can't move forward with legislation. You can't move forward with destroying the sovereignty of nations. You cannot move forward with oppressive measures. One thing that has recently come to light, the Obama administration just announced that they would be bringing in a UN police force here in the United States. And that police force will probably be enforcing many things, except for our Constitution. They're not going to come in and
Right.
protect our Constitution. They're coming in to protect the interests of the United Nations. Now, many of our ancestors died. They shed blood for the foundations of our countries, for our freedoms. Those will be quickly taken away, and there will not be anything that we can do about it because, again, this new government is not going to be representative of you, of any of our listeners, or our elected officials, or our government laws. It will supersede everything, and again, create this new world order agenda that is very oppressive. It's very concerning, Mike.
It is very concerning, Michael, and it's difficult to drive that point home to folks that there is going to be a loss of liberty, there's going to be a loss of rights, more than we're seeing today, and it's evaporating daily. But on the other hand, what's also interesting to me is a lot of people, and maybe you're seeing this also, that used to deny all this stuff, and they're starting to see a lot of this stuff roll up onto their doorsteps now, and they're beginning to wake up. It may not be chemtrails, but it could be the vaccines, it could be the GMOs, it could be the police state, whatever it may be. So much of it is coming forth now that it's very difficult for people that used to deny to continue to deny. Are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a mass awakening. And, you know, the old saying goes, the more oppression that we have, the more people wake up. And that's very important. And when we started with What in the World Are They Spraying? That was, almost 6 years ago. It was very rare to find somebody who was aware of this issue. Now it's essentially common knowledge. Many people are very aware of it, or at least have heard about it. So the awareness issue is there. But we're at a very critical time. And what's important to notice, while education is still very important, there are people out there that could take action that are not because they're not aware of it. Education is not the only thing that we need to focus on. And we're at a critical time right now. And we're being attacked not only legally, but also legislatively. And if we only focus on education, we're missing the boat. Because I don't think the powers to be, I don't think the people orchestrating these changes at this time are too concerned about people being aware of what they're doing. I think they're concerned about people interfering with their monetary and political objectives. And the way that we address that is through, we look at the actions that they're taking. And right now we're in an extremely, extremely critical time because the opposition is taking both legal and legislative steps to take this issue, geoengineering or climate change, out of our jurisdiction. Once that is done, it will develop, without question, the structure to legalize, without our input, without our say, geoengineering programs. And if we allow this to happen, there will not be anything that we can do about this. So we have to move forward with these tests, with the tests that we're taking. We're going to bring those into the courtroom. Not that I have 100% faith in our court system, but I think if we get these programs for testing, atmospheric sampling, which we're very aware of how to do this now. We're just waiting for the adequate funding. Once we get airplanes up in every region of the world, we get test results that are 100% conclusive. What the goal is to stop this climate change agenda, this climate change agreement, getting court injunctions to stop and take a second look at this. Because bottom line, once we can prove that geoengineering is orchestrating these changes, we can get an injunction to stop the climate change talks, the mandates, and also these agreements. And that's the goal. We have to put a stick in their spoke. We have to break up this cog, buy some time, and again, get this issue of geoengineering, how it relates to climate change, on the table so that they don't move forward. And a lot of people are saying, oh, CO2 is causing climate change and we have to address it, but we don't want geoengineering. Mike, I want to be very clear. If we allow these powers to take, or these individuals to take our power, to take our authority, to take our sovereignty, I guarantee you, they're not going to say, oh, well, those people in America, they don't want geoengineering legalized. They will legalize geoengineering. They're doing it today,
Right.
and they will legalize it, and there will not be anything that we can do. So right now, we're in an absolute critical time in terms of getting these tests and bringing this into the courtroom. And again, stopping the climate change agreement, stopping the climate change agenda. It's critical to what we're doing, and it's the key.
Now, Michael, your point is very important about folks being awake. And as you mentioned, the education is very important. But if we don't make that awareness kinetic, in other words, if we do nothing, then that suits the controllers just fine.
It does. And, and then there's action that is not effective. And we started a lawsuit, or I put out the idea collecting names for the lawsuit to go in with very specific goals and ideas. We had another group who just a couple weeks after put together a very similar website. The graphics even looked the same. And it sure looked like that was an attempt to co-opt and bring a lawsuit into the other area. I know they're not going in with the objectives, with the tests. That group is not supportive of going up and taking atmospheric tests. That group as well is not going in trying to stop the climate change agreement. And those are the two things that we absolutely need to stop this. So it's very concerning when another party comes in and they try to steal attention or co-opt a certain action that we're taking. And my concern is that this will be driven into the ground. It will go nowhere. It will waste time and, again, take the support of attorneys and people that would have come over to the effective action into an area of inefficiency. And I really think that's what we're seeing. So I've reached out to a couple of the attorneys in that other group, and I've let them know about this Paris Climate Agreement and our atmospheric tests. So far, they haven't been interested in those. And again, that's a big concern. So I'm there if they want to talk to me, if they want to help support or bring our atmospheric tests and our goals into the courtroom. I think that's the only way that we're going to get geoengineering stopped. So I'm there for them, and that offer is out there.
Okay, and let me ask you this, Michael. I've read a couple of articles recently where the Paris conference is going to take place in December, correct?
Yes, it is.
And I was reading articles where there's not harmony. It's not harmonious with regard to coming into agreement. The folks that will be attending the conference, I guess the decision makers or the folks participating, there's a divide, that they're not all rowing the boat in the same direction.
I think that might be somewhat accurate. However, I think it's important to note what people are looking at is past. Here's what they're doing, okay? They're issuing with this climate agreement. In the past, we've had the Kyoto protocol. That was ineffective because it wasn't a binding agreement. This agreement is a binding agreement. And what they're planning on doing, they're offering incentives for like developing nations who would come on board with this, so it would help them develop more. And they're offering disincentives for countries like the US and other countries for not signing on to this. So essentially what they're using is the monetary system to either wage war on a country or provide an abundance to other countries to fulfill their political objectives. They're not only going to be doing this through laws, they're doing this at this time developing a structure based on grants and other measures. So this agreement, while people might say it doesn't look like it's going to go through, we're very confident that the United States will be signing onto this. And again, they're going to utilize the financial system, again, to wage war on countries who might not be willing to sign on to this. So it's going to be very difficult for those countries and the people of those countries in terms of finances and other security issues if they don't sign on to this. So it does look like it's going to go through, but we will see what happens. We can always pray. However, I think it's very important while we pray it doesn't go through, you better believe this is the ace in the hole for the new world order.
Right.
The climate agreement is the key for them to consolidate all of this monetary and political power. This agenda is several hundred years old, and to think that they would give up if Paris doesn't sign is ludicrous. So we have to get our ducks in order. We have to recognize where the battle needs to be. And again, it's with these tests, and it's addressing this issue, geoengineering, in terms of climate change. I am convinced there is no other way to stop this, and I'm quite confident that we will have success once the support comes into our camp.
Now, Michael, do you think that it will be easier to secure an attorney once the results come back from the paragliding experiment?
I do believe so, yes. And right now at the Geoengineering Action Network, we're accepting names from people who have had damages. So some people might have had, again, property, physical damages. But anybody who is taxed based on this unproven idea that geoengineering, or I'm sorry, that CO2 is creating the changes in our climate, any taxation, any legislation that people are subject to, those essentially are monetary or other damages that we can move forward on. And there's no question that we can prove this, assuming that we find the ingredients, which we will, in the tests, and then we can prove that this agenda is fraudulent, that they missed the big elephant in the room. They have to reverse everything. They have to reimburse. And I think that's the only way to combat this. And if we fail to do this, if we only, for example, hand out information or post on Facebook, we're missing the boat with this. We have to get aggressive right now, and if we don't, again, I think a time is coming very quickly where we might go to our legislators and get a reply such as, well, that's a UN issue. It's out of our jurisdiction. There's nothing that we can do. And we're moving very quickly to that. And the TPP plays a very key role in this, because the TPP is now forming global tribunals, and also tribunals related to climate change. Those tribunals are formed by the corporate interests, the corporations that have monetary interests. And if any local legislation, let's say you create a local law, let's say in Maui County, which we were working on, if that interferes with the profitability of the corporations, the corporations have the ability to sue the local municipalities. And that's another way that they're going to be moving forward and using this form of financial oppression to move forward with their political objectives. So it's very serious, it's very oppressive, and it's very real. And these are things that we're seeing. And again, the Obama administration just announced a UN police force coming on to the US soil. You better believe they're going to be enforcing climate legislation, and that means they're going to be knocking on your door. If you're using the wrong appliances, they're going to be fining you. They are going to limit you through cap and trade, unless, of course, you'll be capped, meaning your ability to do what you need to do, maybe drive to work and utilize automobiles, or vacuum your house, or turn on the air condition. That will be capped. So we're definitely going to have to reduce that under the plan that they have, unless you have an abundance of money. Then you have the ability to trade. You can trade carbon credits to somebody who might need to use more energy. So it's the monetization of the air that we breathe. It's a monetization of carbon. And if you have money, you can live a life that we're currently living. You can live a free life. If you don't, you will be capped, and your freedoms will be taken away.
You know, people have to really get their heads wrapped around this, Michael, because you're 100% right. This is the direction that they're pushing this. If we sit idly by and we don't do anything, then what you just explained is what's going to get implemented. So I agree with you 100%. This is a very, very important time in history to get the ball rolling and move it forward. Now, let me ask you this question, Michael. You had mentioned earlier that with the paraglider test, you had received FAA approval. Now, you didn't have any resistance or pushback from the FAA. Do they know what this test is all about?
They do, and one of our paragliders is friends with the person who actually gave approval. The person who gave approval, according to him, does not believe in this issue whatsoever. So we're able to get approval, and it's a 1-year approval, so we have flexibility in terms of the time. What the FAA needs is to give us clearance, or give them clearance once they go up into the sky, making sure that there's not commercial or other aircraft, because essentially it's going to be, a person with a parachute and a motor strapped to their back. So anyways, we were kind of shocked that FAA gave approval, but they did. And again, we're expecting some of the tests to come back negative. Based on Dr. Pang, who is the Director of Health on Maui. He has had many experiences with government officials in terms of testing for contaminations he told me a couple of years ago, once you go up and do those tests, there's no question in my mind that they will be spraying steam. But due to the fact that we're planning on expanding this program, utilizing jet aircraft and other aircraft around the world, I'm working on that proposal right now in support for that project around the world. They cannot stop those programs if we have multi-programs or testing projects going on around the world. So it's very exciting. And again, Mike, we've been battling this for several years now, and I've seen a lot of different attempts in terms of addressing this issue. But right now, I think the ace in the hole is going to be these tests, getting this into the courtroom and getting an injunction related to the climate agreement. Because again, once this agreement is signed, it will create the foundation to legalize, or the structure to legalize, geoengineering without our input or the input of our legislators. So it's a very critical time in terms of how we address this. And, you know, I really want to point out, it's not only important how we address it, but in the manner in which we address this. So you can address an issue, or you can bring forth a lawsuit, and at times it could do more damage than good. And what I mean by that, if your house, for example, is burning down, and that's kind of the political situation that we're in, I think the first step is to alert someone that the house is burning. Now, you can write on Facebook, "My house is burning," and it probably will not be effective in terms of getting people to come and put out your house fire. However, if you call the fire department, that's probably a good first step. And when the fire department gets there, you have to have the right plan for putting out the fire. So water would be a good thing to put on fire because it takes out fire. However, if that fire department, for example, throws gas on the fire, they're taking action towards the fire, but they could exacerbate the problem. And that's my concern in terms of other people taking legal action that does not address geoengineering in terms of the climate change agenda. And I think it could create more damage. I'm very concerned about that. However, again, very open to utilizing not only our tests, but our plan of action with that legal team. So I hope that they respond in that capacity. I think we have the ability to work together. And again, unity is the way that we move forward in this movement. And it's no new news that there's been a lot of disharmony. There's been a lot of character assassination, other attacks that have set us back in a major way. And I hope that we can overcome those to move forward in a manner that's going to get these programs stopped immediately. So that's my prayer, and I hope that everybody can move past this character assassination, or he said, she said, and just move forward with the people that want to take the right action. And that's a plea for support right now.
Now, are you a little leery, Michael, that you mentioned before that the tests are going to be peer reviewed? I mean, peer review means that it's going to be some sort of consensus agreement. Does that concern you at all?
Not at all. I think it's very important. And again, we're doing this very scientific. So we have scientific testing equipment. We have a scientist. So we will have a number of scientists looking at the way that these tests are done. And that's going to be essential for bringing this into the courtroom. If it's not done scientifically or peer reviewed, there are a number of contamination issues that could impact the way this is viewed in the court. And again, we have this issue of reasonable doubt. We know they're geoengineering. We know for a fact that geoengineering contamination is getting into our rainwater. However, there could be reasonable doubt, which doesn't mean it's not happening. It just means, according to the court system, you can't move forward in a legal capacity. So that will bring us out of this issue, or it will shield us from this issue of reasonable doubt and give us, again, 100% court admissible evidence to move forward in the capacity that we discussed.
Now, it's also interesting. It sounded to me like the FAA approval came from somebody that doesn't believe that you're going to find anything. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, that's what I've been told. And again, there are a number of people in our government offices who are not fully informed of every Black Ops project. So yeah, from what I was told, the person chuckled and they said, "Well, you're not going to find anything. Of course, we're going to give you approval on this."
All right. So, Michael, when is this going to take place?
We're expecting the team of paragliders right now is rebuilding an engine, and they're going to require special gasoline to go up to that elevation. So they're expecting this to occur in March. This will be included, as well as our other test, in my next film, An Unconventional Shade of Gray, unconventionalgray.com. I'm looking for an editor right now somebody who has, I guess I'll put this out there, somebody who has professional experience editing feature films. And once I get an editor, we're going to put together the film and obviously wait for the test results to come back from the atmospheric test. Then we'll be releasing this. And it's really, Mike, it's a call to action film. We're hoping to utilize the platform that we have with the film, getting the necessary information out to the world so that people around the world can take action. So we're working on programs, specifically what we need to do or what we feel we need to do in terms of legal and legislative steps that will be included in An Unconventional Shade of Gray, unconventionalgray.com.
Now, Michael, if I understood you correctly earlier, the paraglider experiment is not going to be a one-time event. They're going to take several samplings?
That's correct. And it's very important to get a number of samples. That way we can prove that geoengineering is going on in a number of regions. Let's say if we go up and we test a trail, we find something inert, that does not disprove the chemtrail issue or the issue of ongoing geoengineering programs. The only thing it proves is that the trail that we tested did not have geoengineering aerosols in it. So that's why it's important to expand the project and to take a number of tests. Now, that way we have a much stronger case in terms of going into court. So what it is, Mike, it's a monumental, it's a breakthrough that we've had in the movement, and that's what we need. We need something huge. We need something that will be court admissible. This will do it. I've been waiting to do this for 5 years. We're also waiting to go out to Hawaii. We need about $7,000 to do one flight, and we're waiting for that funding to come in. So keep your fingers crossed and please pray. We need funding immediately so that we can expand this project and move forward.
How are you securing the funding, Michael? Is it a GoFundMe or do you have some private investors? How's that working?
Right now I'm putting together with my co-producer, G. Edward Griffin, of What in the World Are They Spraying? And we're putting together a funding campaign which will be released on the Coalition Against Geoengineering.org website. We have gotten a team together right now that's building that website back up, and we're making it the #1 source of truthful information about geoengineering. So we're putting out daily posts. But again, we're going to use that platform and the email list that we have to see if people will go ahead and fund this. And again, it's a critical time. I've done a lot of important things, and I feel like both of my films were very important in terms of bringing awareness. I feel that both of them pale in comparison in terms of these tests. It's absolutely critical that we get the support needed.
Michael, websites, resources, places where folks can go to catch up on the work that you're doing, the experiment. What do you have set up so that folks can get themselves educated?
We're now posting daily on Coalition Against Geoengineering.org. We have a wonderful team of people who are helping out, admin, doing graphics, et cetera, et cetera. So that is one source. For detoxification, I started selling MSM sulfur. You can learn more about that. It's very effective for detoxing from heavy metal contamination. Go to organicsulfur.net to learn more about that. And of course, any DVD that you order, we encourage people to make copies hand out for free. You can go to whyintheworldaretheyspraying.com, and to learn more about An Unconventional Shade of Gray, that's my third and final film, go to unconventionalgray.com, and you can see the trailer there. We're asking for pre-orders and angel support. You can learn more about that. Pre-orders help us to pre-order the film. It gives us resources to move forward in completion of the film. So, of course, all pre-orders will help us create an end product that we can bring to the world. So very important.
You know, Michael, there are very few people who work as hard at this as you do. So me personally, I want to tip my hat to what you're doing because you're making things happen, and it's very, very important stuff.
Yes, it is. And Mike, there have been a lot of important times in terms of our work. There's no more critical time than this. And again, we have a 5-year planned implementation with the Paris Climate Agreement. And I think it's critical that we start moving forward right now in the capacities that we described.
Well, Michael, do you have any other parting words, anything to wrap up with before we head out?
You know, I think that would do it. I just encourage everybody to get active in an active capacity. We're going to be on the Coalition Against Geoengineering doing weekly calls to action. So we're going to be moving forward educating our legislators. I was in Sacramento a couple weeks ago, and I was shocked at how many of our legislators had no idea about the Paris Climate Agreement and how that would impact them. Essentially, what they're doing is having their power, their authority, their control taken away from them, and they're not even aware of this. So it's very concerning. So check that website out, please, and move forward. Please put down your TV for an hour a day. Address this, get the information out. It's a very critical time. But that's it.
Excellent update, Michael. And as you know, you have an open invite to come back anytime. Anytime you have an update, anytime you need to get a communique out, you just let me know, and we'll connect, and we'll get the information out to the audience and get this thing solved.
Oh, thank you very much. Time is going to be, it's going to happen soon, Mike, but collectively, we're very powerful. So I really appreciate your support and everything that you're doing. Thank you.
No, anytime.
Okay, Mike. Take
All right,
care.
Michael. Bye-bye now. And that concludes another Sage Aquay Hour interview, and I hope you enjoyed the discussion as much as I did. Links to my guests' websites and social media are included in the show notes below. And as always, I'd like to thank everyone for listening and visiting the blog. You can get to the blog by typing in sageaquayradio.blogspot.com or simply head over to my hub website at sageaquay.com. Also, if you get a moment, please visit laboroflovemusic.com to listen to my album, Leaving Dystopia. And remember, live in truth and always serve creation. It's really that simple. See everyone next week. Be safe, enjoy, and God bless.